Welcome, college baseball fans, specifically ACC fans. We are continuing our ACC regional preview after a one-night hiatus. I'm joined by Jake McKeever for these next two. We're going to be covering the Charlottesville regional now. We'll be talking about the Norman regional after this, and then Nick is going to join me for the Greenville and Raleigh regionals. If you want to look at one of the other regionals, they are up on our YouTube. We did that on Tuesday with Micah. That's the Clemson, Chapel Hill, Athens, and Tallahassee regionals. You can also see them on the fourth quarter ACC podcast on Spotify or Apple. So, hey, Jake, how you doing?
Hey, Monty, good to be here again. I feel like it's been a long time since we've done an ACC show, and in total ACC fashion, I show up wearing an opposing team's colors.
Yep. And you should thank Micah for allowing us to do this. He was gracious enough to allow you to stand in for him, so no pressure. He is he is already in Athens, ready to roll with the Ramblin' Wreck of Georgia Tech. He will also be, I believe, on site at the Clemson regional as well. So props to Micah for getting out there nice and early. Jake, you're going to a regional, right?
Yes, I'll be at the College Station regional. So Texas A&M, University of Louisiana, Texas, and then Grambling State. So no ACC affiliation at all.
Yeah, Jake teased us with possibly going to Tallahassee and then didn't go. So
I really wanted to, but I got approved for A&M, so I was kind of my backup was going to Tallahassee. So
whatever.
I might be there for a super regional though. I might tease you again.
Anyway, we do have pitching matchups that I know of for Mississippi State and for Virginia. They are not playing each other on Friday night. They may play each other Saturday, but Cole Stephen is going to get the nod against St. John's. Joe Savino will get the nod against Penn. The big thing for Penn is they've lost two of their best players from last year. Obviously, the Friday night starter Owen Cody is now at Virginia, and the big name Ben Miller is the third baseman for Duke. But they've still got some pieces, right, Jake?
And there's Jackson Appel, who's at Texas A&M, first team All SEC player, switching and catcher. So they really did replace a lot, and they really flew under the radar in terms of what we were going to see from Penn, just because Columbia locked up the Ivy League so early. You almost kind of forgot about Penn, and they rolled through that losers bracket, defeating Princeton twice in Ivy League. But they haven't really played a lot. They got finals off, and then their regionals started early, so it is kind of a little bit of a mixed bag when we're looking at this Penn team.
Yeah, they do have a really good hitter in Wyatt Hensler.
Texas A&M commit.
Is he? Yeah, well, he ended up at Penn. 372, 22 home runs, 55 RBIs. Absolute monster year for the Quakers. He's going to be the guy that you circle in the lineup.
Yeah, he accounts for 40% of Penn's home runs. He has Penn's school record for home runs. He has Penn's record for doubles. And I did want to clarify, Monty, he is coming to Texas A&M in 2025. He's already committed. He's been committed for a year.
Oh, is it because of the graduate rule for
Ivy League?
The
Ivy. Yeah, I think you have to, I mean, honestly, I couldn't imagine trying to do a graduate program in general, let alone an Ivy League graduate program. So I get why the rule is in place, and, the rich get richer down in College Station.
Yeah, and as we've seen, guys can really make that jump from the Ivy League. There are some really, really good players that have done so over the past couple of seasons. But talking about Penn, they were the fourth best team in the Ivy League. They ended up getting hot in the tournament and returning. Obviously, Columbia was the favorite to win the Ivy League. They do not. So what are Penn's chances in this?
I think Penn's a little bit of a mixed bag, and we should say that they also got in via a tiebreaker. There were, three teams tied for those final two spots. Unfortunately, Dartmouth was the one left off. I'm really not going to fault Penn just because Ivy League scheduling is already so tricky, but this is going to be Penn's first power conference opponent, and it's going to be, a big step up in competition. And, fourth seed in the Ivy, they really didn't handle a lot of the quote-unquote elite teams. So while they do have a little bit of tournament experience, and Wyatt Hensler's probably one of the better players in this regional, I would say Penn has a very, very slim chance in this one.
Yeah, that brings us on to the 2 and 3 seeds, who are very similar in that they're set up with really good pitching. And in fact, St. John's arguably could have the best starting rotation of the four teams, and Mississippi State probably has the best bullpen. But what I'm looking at is the 1-2 punch for Mississippi State with Carl Steven and I'm going to try it, Jarangelo Sanja.
Yeah, I think that is correct. I'll have to double check that one as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sanja again. Stevens is the Friday night guy, so no change on anything with Lamonis. That really isn't that unexpected in the 2-3 game, just because that is such a big deal to win it as opposed to a 4. And again, you mentioned the state bullpen. It's been much improved. I think that was one of their biggest downfalls last year in 2023. They had a ton of walks. They had a bad bullpen. They stole a pitching coach from South Carolina, and it really kind of has brought new life into this Bulldog squad. Because again, we know that the Dogs can hit. They have Dakota Jordan. They have Hunter Hines. They're going to mash the ball, but the bullpen has been really good. I mean, Tyler Davis has been just tremendous in every step of the way this season, which is really hard to have a sub 1.5 in the SEC, and he's one that's done that.
Yeah, and Nate Dom is going to be available, correct? I'm not sure what I would imagine he'd be available out of the bullpen for them, because I know he's had some ups and downs with the injury this season.
Yeah, he pitched a bullpen session back on the 18th in a midweek, one of their last midweeks. So again, I'm not sure how much he'll go, but 1 or 2 innings in a regional. I mean all these innings there's such a premium. Like if you can have a guy who
it can be
outs, yeah,
it can be a huge thing just to go 1 inning here. You could pitch 2 innings this whole regional, could be the 2 pivotal ones. So that's a big deal if they've got him healthy enough to go. He doesn't have to start to make an impact.
Yeah, and again, even just peace of mind from Lamonis that if he has a guy down there at the end of the bullpen that can come in, get 3 outs to close the door. Because again, the offense is going to be offensing. Like they're one of the better hitting teams in the SEC for a reason. And in the SEC, you face so many tough pitchers. And again, it's the big bat of Hunter Hines, David Mershon. He moved over from second to short. There's really kind of been the lightning rod that kind of ever since that. I mean, States looks like a completely different team. Because, Johnny Long's really not going to hit. And then the shortstop that they had in there before Mershon, he really wasn't hitting. So there was just kind of an 8 and 9 stalwart that really kind of stopped a lot of those state rallies. And ever since Mershon's moved over, I mean, it's looked like a completely different team. It looks like those state teams of old that always seems to get the big hit at the right time.
Well, backing up a bit to talk a little bit about St. John's and their rotation. They've got some really good players, and hopefully I don't butcher any of these names, but Xavier Kohlhauser, Evan Chafee, and Mario Pesca. Those are very good, and they're the only team that really has 3 guys that they can trot out there in a starting role. Now, the other teams are probably going to have to string together a bullpen kind of day with the third starter, or they have an inconsistent third starter. So these guys are very good, and they tend to, I'm reading off D1 Baseball's thing, and they tend to limit big innings, which could be really big against Virginia and Mississippi State, 2 teams that can put up big innings.
I should say that I've actually seen Xavier Kohlhauser in person. He pitched a 6-inning shutout against Sam earlier in the year. I saw them when they were in Houston, and then obviously when they went and beat Florida on opening night, everybody kind of tuned into that game and caught up for it. So, I mean, they have tremendous stuff. And, like you said, he does a really good job limiting damage. The contact that he had really wasn't hard contact. And I know Sam's sitting at home, but again, that is a difficult lineup to kind of navigate, as they have Walker Yannick, who's probably going to be a first rounder, and to shut them out on the road was just tremendous stuff. And again, it's weird because I saw him against Houston and he really didn't pitch that good. So I kind of had written it off like, oh, he's maybe not that good. And just a switch flipped against Sam Houston a week later. I don't know if it was just the Texas weather and getting used to it down there, but he was tremendous when I saw him against Sam Houston.
Well, what can you tell us about the St. John's offense? Because I haven't seen too much on them. What are they going to be able to bring to the plate against a Mississippi State team who, I mean, I've heard Hunter Hines and Dakota Jordan have struggled a little bit recently, but they've got to be able to score on Carl Steven tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I think that the key for St. John's is to get them in kind of a low-scoring game. But the flip side of that is, as we've seen it with Arkansas, it really kind of limits you where one swing can kind of completely change the game. And yeah, you mentioned Hunter Hines kind of slumping down the stretch. I think that was just kind of a, get into Hoover, get out kind of situation that you rather have him slump there. it wouldn't surprise me to see him kind of break out. Again, I'm probably going to butcher the name, but Garrett Scavelli, the left fielder, was one that really, really jumped out to me when I got to see them earlier. Jackson Tucker had a really kind of big double again. And then Jimmy Keenan had a long, long home run at Sam Houston, which is, again, a really tough place to kind of hit the ball out of the yard. So they have a few guys in the lineup that they can kind of roll with. And again, at the bottom of the order, I think, is one of the deeper ones too, as well as Anthony, I think, Benazara is another one we're really going to have to kind of watch to see how he does. And again, from a coaching standpoint, they're coached by former big leaguer Mike Hampton, pitcher, Silver Slugger winner. So they have some major league pedigree. And again, they've played at Florida. They've played at Houston. They're not going to be kind of afraid of the moment down there in Charlottesville. Unlike Penn, St. John's has played a difficult schedule on top of being in the Big East.
Yeah, and now we also get to talk a little bit about Virginia. I don't know if you saw, by the way, just means less ACC, Mike and or Nick. Can't believe you're wearing Mississippi State gear. It is the new pullover from Home Field Apparel, right?
No, this is the Adidas one.
This is the Adidas one. Okay, never mind then. I won't plug Home Field Apparel. Way to go, Jake.
I am very jealous, though, because I saw a few of the pictures come out from it, and it looks to be even better than Adidas rendered up. They had the cool Bulldog logo on the back of the jersey. So, again, I think that they're sold out of all the jerseys now. So,
I got my Florida State one, so I'm happy.
Well, I mean, if we want to plug Home Field, I mean, they're coming out with like a unique college mascot line in the summer. So I'm really excited to see, just because I love kind of collegiate athletics. There's a Banana Slugs one coming out, a Pepperdine collection, and then again, the Tulane stuff that they come out with is honestly better than the Tulane bookstore.
Anyway, back to keep us on track. Jake is going to Texas A&M as we've covered earlier in the show. But we're talking now about Virginia and the way they match up really well. Now, the good news for Virginia is they do have some consistency at the top of their rotation in their 1-2 punch, with Joe Savino's going to go Friday. Evan Blanco, who's amongst one of the best pitchers in the region, probably I'd say Carl Steven is probably ahead of him, but he's one of the best pitchers in the region, starting pitchers. He'll go Saturday against St. John's or Mississippi State if UVA wins. Otherwise, he's facing Mississippi or St. John's in the losers bracket. But Virginia's offense, 1 through 9, if they're going with Eric Becker, all are hitting over 300. They led the ACC in home runs. By the way, playing most of their games in a pitcher-friendly park. And there are two other guys that are regulars that are outside of, that start occasionally. Anthony Stefan and Luke Hansen, they both hit in the 290s. So this is a very, very good Virginia baseball offense, and that's the thing that's carried them all season long. The question is, are they going to get enough pitching to be able to shut down that Mississippi State offense and score enough on the other side?
I should say that this doesn't feel like your stereotypical Virginia team.
No,
they absolutely raked. I mean, it feels like almost like an SEC team in a way, because they just rake every chance that they get. They're going to score double-digit runs as the regionals kind of progress. You feel really, really good about Virginia's chances going forward. And again, it's going to be a bloodbath to whoever makes it through into that losers bracket to face, if they can get into an if necessary game. Because again, St. John's has those top 3 pitchers, and then after that, the bullpen really kind of drops off. State obviously has Cal Stevens and a really, really good, talented bullpen. But again, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you start facing the Virginia lineup with those guys, it's going to be a dangerous game. You're looking at a 14-10, 14-11. I think this is probably one of State's hardest regionals in at least 7 or 8 years. I mean, Virginia truly is a Goliath that they're going in and facing.
Yeah, I think if Mississippi State can gets that win on Saturday, they've got a real chance. But if obviously, assuming they win Friday, if they start 2-0, I think they've got a really, really good chance. Obviously, that sounds obvious, but I think whoever loses is going to have a really, really tough road coming out of the losers bracket, because I don't think any team has enough pitching to come out of the losers bracket.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the tough one for me, is just because I think State kind of does, but again, if they can, I think they have it against, St. John's or a Penn if somehow Virginia gets knocked out. But I really don't see a world where Virginia isn't playing in the final with the lineup that they have, the arms that they can roll out. I'm sure I just gave them the kiss of death, Monty.
Right, probably. Which is no. I was just going to point out Mississippi State coming out of losers bracket would have to beat Virginia twice.
Yes, so and that's a tall task again. But Mississippi State has some tremendous wins, and they were on the wrong side in a lot of really, really close games. I know the A&M one, they could have very easily taken 2 of 3 on the road. LSU, they took 2 of 3 on the road. Bama is a 2 seed in the Florida regional. So they really played, a gauntlet of a schedule in the SEC. So they're really not going to be afraid of the moment in Charlottesville. And I think that that's going to be the one thing to track is, again, Penn's been here before. They were here last year. St. John's has a little bit of that big league experience. Mississippi State played through the SEC, but they're kind of in a little bit of unfamiliar territory. So I think that's the one thing that's really exciting to me about this regional is you can kind of talk yourself into all 4 teams winning the regional. Like, I know that kind of sounds crazy to say, but all 4 teams really do have the talent to kind of go forward into a super regional.
Yeah, and that's going to bring us up to our picks. Jake, what are you going to go with for your picks?
I'm going to go with Virginia coming out and then State being the 2 that gets left home. And I think they get it to a what-if game, but I'm going to go with Virginia winning the regional outright.
All right, and who's 3 and 4?
I'll go St. John's is 4 and Penn is 3. I think Penn steals a game.
All right, I like it. I can't remember what I went with. I think I went with Mississippi State and then Virginia.
I think Monty went with the buffer.
Micah does have my official picks. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was Mississippi State, Virginia, and I'm going St. John's and Penn in the 4. So that'll wrap us up for this regional. We're going to be back in just a couple of minutes with the Norman Regional, talking Oklahoma, Duke, UConn, and everyone's favorite, Jake. Everyone's
Oral
favorite,
Roberts.
Oral Roberts. All right, so we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Hang tight, and you'll see us come back. I did go Virginia actually instead of Mississippi State, so we'll see how that rides out. We'll see you in a few.